Director Dan Trachtenberg is back with another installment in the Predator franchise. This time, he takes us to Badlands. And after watching it, I gotta say that Bud is my new favorite sidekick. A young Predator outcast from his clan finds an unlikely ally on his journey in search of the ultimate adversary. So this stars Elle Fanning and Demetrius Schuster-Kolomatangi as Thea and Dek, respectively. Now, Dek is a Yucha, his clan of predators, and in their clan, there is no fear and no failure. Dek, he's the runt of the family, and he's pretty much an outcast and disgrace, especially in the eyes of his father. So to prove himself worthy of the clan, he decides to track down and kill the ultimate apex beast and then bring it back as a trophy. And this thing, it is so dangerous, even his dad hasn't battled it. Now, the planet the story takes place on, it's basically Australia. Everything, and I mean everything, is trying to kill Dek. The creativity and the imagination that go into world building are awesome. We have all sorts of plants, animals, even the terrain that are wildly treacherous, but also freakishly beautiful at the same time. And everywhere Dek turns, something is working to subdue, trap, or eat him. And that then creates this formidable trial that he has to overcome. I love how this is an underdog story, using a creature we've typically seen as the premier hunter and killer and villain. So to follow someone who is passionate and skillful, but not nearly as deadly or cunning as others we've seen before, it makes for a character who has to woo us with his battle, but also then win us with his heart. And Dek does exactly that. Despite all the practical makeup and bodysuit that he's got on, then combined with the digital enhancements, Dek portrays a ton of emotion, becoming a sympathetic protagonist and eventually one we cheer for. He's gruff, arrogant, and stubborn, but also not so pig-headed that he can't notice or understand emotional clues that will then benefit him in the long run. Schuster-Kolomatangi is brilliant as Dek. He is extremely physical, and he performs some amazing action sequences that can be breathtaking and exhilarating, as well as fiercely brutal and then fluidly smooth. The fight choreography, it is wonderfully shot, creating tense action, but with the clarity to see the maneuvers and the acrobatics that make up all these sequences. Now, there are still a lot of quick cuts, but they're also balanced by longer scenes that let us get immersed in the battles. And then we've got Elle Fanning playing Thea, a synth who is kind of a Jiminy Cricket and story narrator all at once. Through one very quick line of dialogue, that's also a bit of a wink to the audience, it's easily explained how the dialogue for the rest of the movie is going to work. And then it does. Simplicity just at its finest. And it makes sense without being weird. But Fanning is sort of the cutesy comic relief in this movie. While I chuckled quite a bit at her quips, there's this innocent matter-of-factness to the lines that work to build a character who is instantly endearing while also being the catalyst for Dek's growth. And together, the duo goes on a dysfunctional buddy road trip. I mean, it's a bit like Tommy Boy, except here the car doesn't hit the deer. The deer destroys everything in its path as it charges towards Dek and Thea. And that's probably the largest negative that I could give to this story. It's very familiar because of how much it mimics other odd couple type stories where one or both are on a quest, and like it or not, they need each other to succeed. Now, I didn't mind any similarities this type of arc shares because there's so much chemistry between Thea and Dek that it just overshadows any familiarity. Plus, the uniqueness of a top hunter being the underdog that makes for unpredictable encounters. Now, some creatures or things can seem very mundane, even lackluster, but they can also be the most deadly that we've seen. And that works to maintain a head-on-a-swivel sort of excitement for the storytelling. Now, there is a bit of predictability to the story, especially as we get towards the final climax, but there are still several surprises that the plot keeps pretty much obscured for us. There's one other character in this film that I absolutely loved, and she just stole the show. Bud is her name, and while some may find it a bit cheesy, even cheeky, the pureness and heart of the character had my audience laughing out loud because of Bud's antics. Now, I was impressed and then captivated by so much of the beauty of the movie. There are many just wonderful shots that are frame-worthy. Often we'll see a character or a figure backlit by some dramatic landscape, creating a sense of grandeur or sometimes smallness so that the scale of the world is just felt. Along with the cinematography too, the creature designs and the special effects, they're incredible. Now, I already mentioned the costume and the prosthetics of Deck, but the predatory vegetation and then the tiny creature movements, all that happen on the edges of the frame, they all point to an attention to detail of someone who loves this franchise and wants to create pretty much the scariest environment ever. When it comes to special effects, some may have an issue with Deck's weapon. It's a darksaber of sorts. And it's a glowing red sword that acts, even hums a bit like a lightsaber from Star Wars. But the movement and the design, I thought they were spectacular, allowing for some very grotesque killings. Now, the musical score in this is also entrancing. It's very orchestral, but at times feels that it also has this hard rock or heavy metal influence. And the music creates an urgent and driving pace that then matches the intensity of the storytelling, using audible momentum to sync up with the swiftness of the characters as they move towards their goal. And the story feels like it's just the perfect amount of time to tell this story. It's an hour 47, and it doesn't drag or waste time on tangents that detract from Deck's central journey. Now, if you've watched my channel before, you'll know that one story element I massively appreciate is well-earned character growth. And this story, it pays off. While it's a strange thing to be rooting for a creature who has been the villain in so many other stories, here, Deck is a charismatic underdog with a ton of potential for both maturity and emotional growth. And because this is more of an action film than a drama, the growth progression, it is sped up, a bit truncated. But the sentiment, it's still present, and the change in behavior is very evident. Now, yeah, it is somewhat predictable, even expected, but that's also what makes for a great adventure, when we can cheer on the one who everybody else expects to fail, and they better themselves in the process. That's great. The demonstrative performance from Demetrius Schuster-Kolamatangi just allows us to feel the character's anguish and drive. And then, when combined with Elle Fanning's charisma and sincerity, the duo make for an indomitable team who should probably fail, but we root for them nonetheless. Stunning cinematography and spectacular special effects work to build an environment that is equal parts terrifying and gorgeous. Dan Trachtenberg continues to impress and show how he can confidently and firmly deliver compelling and unique story arcs using familiar characters to create some thrilling escapism. There's no sex or nudity, a very tiny bit of profanity, and then a ton of violence. I give Predator Badlands 4.5 out of 5 couches. I mean, this was an immensely fun time. I mean, it's one that you are going to want to see on the largest screen possible. So what time or place do you think Trachtenberg should take the franchise next? I've heard some people mention feudal Japan. I think that'd be awesome. But let me know some other ideas in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.